And I believe we are now live. We are live on YouTube, and hopefully a lot of people are catching this in the replay. That is absolutely fine. This is the second episode of Double Feature Horror Show, which is happening because my CPU continues to be completely busted. I cannot edit. I have recorded a lot, but I can't edit anything. I can't edit anything at all. But there's still a heck of a lot of horror to talk about, so I figured let's do a live stream. And the way I like to do it is sort of covering one topic in particular for the first half of the stream, and then focus on a particular film for the second half. We're going to be a bit more unified than we were last week, where we covered Blockbuster and Scream 5, in that this week we are going to be looking at the Invasion of the Body Snatchers series, before focusing on the somewhat less loved third iteration in that series, the 1993 Body Snatchers. It is not just me on the stream. I'm joined by returning guests, the Teabag Who Laughs and Haryan Gláeddyv. And Teabag, do you just want to say something about yourself quickly?
Hello, everyone. Yes, so I am the Teabag Who Laughs. I run a YouTube channel which focuses on true crime topics. Recently just launched another episode on Sunday about the Sodder family. It's an unsolved case which has been going on for over 75 years. So if you're interested, check that out.
Yeah, I would very much recommend that content. It's very compelling, I've got to say. And Haryan?
Yes, hello. I do general social commentary videos on YouTube and have a podcast every 2 weeks called Laughing at the Guardian, as I hope most of you know. So that's on this week as well, on Saturday at 8 PM. So be talking about Harry and Meghan there, I imagine. But we're on for horror for now, and Harry and Meghan are a different horror topic, so leave them for now.
I feel I don't know, maybe there's a bit of a segue there. Sort of, I don't exactly feel that Harry is acting under his own agency.
Well, I've not got a thought of a wife, so right, and the other topic we have as well. I see.
There's that, yeah. I don't know. I was trying to make that connection there. Okay, so talking about the series as a whole, we are actually weirdly timely in this, because I found out that we do have. Well, I started this because I absolutely love these films. I think there's so much to say about them, and it's kind of interesting that they span such an era. You know, you got the 1956 original, and you're going all the way to. I'm quickly going to check my memory. I think it's 2005. I could be wrong. Where you have the iteration iteration called The Invasion. And I found out we actually have another one coming up. There's apparently a sixth iteration
Nice.
in development. I didn't intend to be timely. I never intend to be timely or popular. It occasionally happens by accident. But the ones we're going the ones we're going to be talking about are the 1956 original, the fairly well-known 1978. I guess you could say it's kind of an early iteration of the unclear reboot / sequel / remake, where you're just kind of not sure. It's technically a sequel, but it also works as a reboot. It's kind of the first time you have that concept. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Kind of.
Okay, so for anyone who's not picking up on that, this is all done. The whole sequel aspect is achieved in a very subtle way, in that the star of the first film, the 1956 Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Kevin McCarthy, has a cameo in the 1978 version as someone running away. He's he gets hit by Donald Sutherland and, I might get this wrong, Veronica Cartwright. I've probably got that wrong. he's hit by their car, and he just sort of like ranting to them and just like saying, "The body snatchers are here. They're coming. They're coming." And you can read that as a cheeky little Easter egg, but it could also be the exact same character.
I was going to say, is he playing the same character, or do we not? Is it just something that you kind of decide for yourself?
I think it's something you probably have to decide for yourself, but I think it's a really sweet little Easter egg.
So it's something that if you decide either way would determine whether it's a remake or a reboot then, because obviously if he's not the same character, it's a reboot. If it's the same character, then it's a sequel or yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay. I'm with you now. I'm with you.
It's kind of backdoor. It's kind of an interesting version of the concept. And then they are followed. So those two films are actually just staying on. No, sorry guys, I'm going to make my mind up. We're going to press ahead because we're going to talk about them in more detail. Those are followed by the 1993 version, just called Body Snatchers, directed by kind of a cult horror figure, Abel Ferreira, who is best known for directing The Driller Killer. Haryan, I mentioned that purely for you.
My ears are burning.
You've killed many a driller.
I in Minecraft, yes.
In Minecraft.
I've never heard of the Driller Killer though. I have to say.
Have you not?
No. I'm not massive on horror and all that. So.
Should this be a topic I'm covering?
I am really grateful to you guys because you just turn up, and for people watching live, hey everyone watching live, and people who are on the rewatch. How this happens is basically I have my list of topics and a whole bunch of films I think would be cool, and I basically say to Teabag and Haryan, go and watch this weird thing if you don't mind, and they're very obliging. I really appreciate it.
We're here to be educated.
Yeah. Well, you have lots of good recommendations. I've not seen a bad film you've said to watch yet. So
thanks, man.
There you go. Yeah.
We will cover Teeth eventually.
Yeah, exactly. I imagine that won't last forever.
Actually, a mild spoiler. We're going to have Poe the person on the stream eventually, and she has seen Teeth, and she rated it very harshly. So we might be discussing Teeth with Poe.
I will watch Teeth.
I'll have to go back and watch that again.
Yeah, but that will be against my will.
Okay. All right, so we got up to 1993. We have a kind of cult horror director taking over and giving it a very unique take. Now, you notice we've got essentially a 15-year gap between the 78 and the 1993. And yes, I did the maths very quickly there. Kind of nervous about that. Hopefully I got that right. You're having this interesting gap, which is going to be very significant. But there's a very short gap between that and the last film that I'd like us to cover, which is arguably not part of the series, arguably. But I'm going to make the argument because I feel we've got another sort of sly secret remake in 1998's The Faculty.
Okay.
Called The Faculty, not called Body Snatchers, but referencing Body Snatchers a heck of a lot and effectively being the same plot.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone joining in chat, you're very welcome. Hey, James. Hey, Julian. Hey, Empire 2.0 and Die Blaue Winke. More German is always welcome here. Although, hey, I don't know, is that Netherlands?
Guten Abend.
Hör doch auf mich, sonst sprechen wir auf Deutsch, okay?
Now you're showing off.
Maybe we're going to cover Black Box in a future show. Who knows? So I'll make the case that The Faculty is actually part of the series, but we're not. I don't know if either of you have watched the 2005 version. Weirdly enough, that is actually directed by a German guy. I think that's Oliver Hirschspiegel.
I'm assuming you're saying the 2005 version of Body Snatchers.
Yes, sorry. The
Okay,
2005 Body Snatchers is just called The Invasion.
Right. Oh, yeah. Because I was thinking they remade The Faculty. No.
Oh, wouldn't you like that?
I would love that personally. I think.
I
Well,
want a Faculty remake.
depends on who's making it and what the agenda is when they make it. But I'd be quite up for a Faculty remake or even like a sequel, because I mean they're kind of old enough now for the main characters from the last film to have their own kids who are potentially in that sort of age range.
Oh, I like it. We should pitch that.
We should.
One note I should put out here is that I think it's probably best if we're able to just discuss the films in full. So these are going to be spoilery. I don't think they would ruin the films for you. If we talked sort of.
Oh yeah, go for it. Yeah, go for it. I'm happy for spoilers.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, they're both over 20 years old. So
yeah,
that's quite hard. Yeah, I mean,
it's kind of our own fault by now if we haven't if we come across spoilers.
Okay, it's you know what, folks? If I'm gonna level with you. If to a certain extent, Invasion of the Body Snatchers are very much like zombie films, or slasher films, in that when you put that wonderful VHS into the machine and it grabs the VHS from you, when you put the disc into that reader, you kind of know what you're getting into. If you're watching a zombie film, it's going to be a slow start, and you're eventually going to end up with a group of people running away from everything. One of them's going to get a bite and hide it, and it's going to end in a siege scenario. If we're watching a slasher film, there's going to be a final girl facing off against a killer whose mask will have to come off. And if we are discussing Invasion of the Body Snatchers in any of its forms, we are going to see a pretty much a similar story play out each time. But it's not so much about the plot or the specific story beats. It's about the vibe. It's about the particular characters you're seeing, and it's about the very different message of each film for each era it's set in.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It's definitely more character based, these films, I'd say.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Especially Body Snatchers. I think the opening kind of gives you that vibe that it's about the character, the main character being Marty. Yeah,
I thought it was a weird name for a girl, but
yeah, I know, right? I'd start double pack. Like, did you say Marty? Right?
Yeah. And in the 78 one, it's like, oh, it's Elizabeth. It's like, oh, that's easier. You get used to it. You do get used to it. And she's. I mean, are we getting into the film now?
We could. I was also pondering sort of how weird it is for us to be very careful about the spoilers. Empire 2.0. I see you saying no spoilers. The trouble is, the second film is the most well known because it's a meme, and the meme is from like the last minute of the darn film. Yeah. Like the internet has spoiled that film to a crazy extent. I mean, you two must have known that meme before you saw the film, right?
Well, as I said, I was waiting for it throughout, and then I realised, it's right at the end, which makes sense because, I mean, this is the thing. Is it a spoiler to say why he does that? Because I think everyone will know why he makes the face he does and points. This is what I mean by spoilers. If I were to, every time I've talked about films and things like that, I do a spoiler warning and just get into the spoilers, because my mind doesn't work in saying I have to omit these bits of data, because then I can't get my full point across, or turn it into a hypothetical, I guess. But then at that point, it may as well be a spoiler anyway. So I don't know, but it's your channel and it's up to you. I can oblige the no spoiler rule, but as I say, one's nearly 50 years old, the other's nearly 30 years old. So
No, it is okay. We'll spoil away because it's not so much. The films are about the vibe, and they're about the message, and they're about the particular character. I was very interested in that. I believe you've seen the 78 version.
On the 93 version.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
You haven't seen The Faculty, which I think was quite interesting.
No. I think I was going off your because you kind of recommended 3 of them, but the first 2 were the 2 Body Snatcher ones, so I assumed those will be the important ones, and then it's like, oh no, there's a third. Oh god.
Oh, they're totally important. They're all important.
Well, I'm sure, but I only had well, I guess I had time for 3, but I thought 2 would be good enough. But it's hard watching 3 horror films in a week, you know. But no, I haven't watched The Faculty, but I don't mind it being spoiled, because if it's just, I don't want to just say, oh, it's just another Body Snatcher film. But if it's the same, idea, I guess instead of duplicating, they go about zombifying them another way. If it's still essentially the same thing, because the whole vibe of it is, it seems like a normal neighborhood, but something's a bit off.
Yeah.
It's like because that's what that's why I preferred the 78 version, because they start from the point where the infecting substance reaches Earth from space, whereas in the 93 version it's already kind of there in the water.
They are less clear in the 93. I'd say the 78 is the best in terms of introducing it.
Yeah.
There's kind of a cool thing in the first one, the 1956, and that is the one that I think I'm the only one who's seen at the moment, right?
Yeah, I was thinking.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
But no, I've not seen
I haven't
it yet.
seen it.
Okay. I would highly recommend it. In fact, everyone watching in chat, everyone watching on the replay, I really recommend the 1956 version. I would say something that interests me quite a lot is that when we watch older horror, there can be a bit of a barrier, a bit of a cultural barrier, where you're watching such a different world and such a different set of people and sort of standard of effects that it can actually kind of create a bit of a barrier in terms of making the horror effective. And it's cool if you disagree.
I know what you mean. They are a product of their times, but I mean, practical effects in some ways can be better. I mean, I'd say, you take Star Wars effects, all the practical effects, most of them look really good, even by today's standards.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's where you get it from. But then when, especially in the 90s, when there was a special effect in the 93 version where, spoilers, I guess we're in it now, when the baby gets yeeted from the helicopter, there's the scene where he's like looking up and screaming, and it looks awful. Which didn't help me be terrified. It helped me laugh at that scene that I was already laughing at. So we're
going to cover that bit in more depth. I'm assuming later on.
Yeah,
but I know which bit you're talking about.
It's the green screen is a bit of a problem, but I would say, and if you look back at other stuff, like you might say the Thing from Another World, or anything where you have kind of a creature feature monster. We're sort of used to a certain standard. Murgit, you legend. You've seen all 3, and the Puppet Masters. I am impressed. I'm impressed. You've done your due diligence there.
Maybe you should be here.
Oh no!
We
go.
We might have to talk. We might have to talk, Murgit. What I'm trying to say effectively is, I feel that the lack of intensive effects makes the 56 version quite accessible. Actually, it's it doesn't have as much. It feels it's more naturalistically acted, and there are some scenes that were a bit brutal. Actually, that they had a bit of trouble getting past the censors. So one example, and this, bear in mind, this is from a film made under the censorship of the Hays Code for anyone who likes their cinema history. They had a scene very similar to the one in the 78, where the doctor character has got our two main characters sort of locked away and is prepping them to be taken over in their sleep by these body snatching aliens. And our character has to break out, and he fills 2 syringes with the sleeping concoction that they've been given.
Yeah.
And he just has to duke it out with 2 guys who are guarding the door, stabbing them in the neck with the syringe. And I'm watching that like, this 1956. Oh my God, that's brutal. That's absolutely brutal. He's just the syringe in the back of the neck. It's horrible.
Right. That's sold it for me. I hate syringes, so I think I'd love this then.
Oh yeah, it's good stuff. So it's quite visceral, but again, it's these are characters that are very identifiable. They're not acting all that stiffly, and part of the other thing that helps is that I would say the reason I'm so interested in talking about the Invasion of the Body Snatchers series is that the theme, I think, is really identifiable. It's kind of like a zombie movie.
Yeah,
but it's a bit different.
Yeah, it's certainly parallel to zombie films, I guess. I wouldn't put them in the same category. Well, I don't think you'd say. Body Snatchers is a zombie film. It's like how would you call it? It's like an assimilation film, I guess, where like the Borg or like the episode of Rick and Morty where the alien throws up in other aliens' mouths to assimilate them. Which I wouldn't call zombie. Yeah, it's not like zombie, but it does make them a collective mind, and exactly how that collective mind works is vague, but I think is fine for that 2-hour film runtime, because most of it's leading up to the world turning into this, with everyone turning into these collectively hive-minded, individuals, even though that's a bit of an oxymoron, but there you go. But no, the vibe is really creepy, especially with how well both films, I'd say, build the world initially, where it's at the start of both, it's perfectly normal. I guess at the start of the 93 one, it's not that normal, but because it's quite an early scene where the baby's in the daycare, and all the kids are drawing the exact same picture, and the teacher's like, "Oh, very good." Like, obviously that's a bit weird, or very weird. And then obviously only the kid knows this, and no one believes the kid, which kind of annoyed me for the 93 version. But
I mean, well, it didn't really take long for it to kind of set up anyway, because there's that scene where there's the opening scene, isn't there, when she's doing the opening monologue, and then they pull up and she goes to the toilet, and then she's like,
"Oh, the black guy,
the dude in the in the toilet," and you kind of think in that moment like, "Oh no, she's getting yep," and then it just turns out that he's just like, no, that you're gonna get caught, they get you in your sleep, there's nothing you can do, nowhere you can go, and you think on the one hand it's like, phew, okay, she's not gonna have a traumatic experience. On the other hand, she's going to have a traumatic experience later. And I actually made notes. I was saying to Proper Horror Show before we started, I started making notes. I only got about 10 minutes worth of notes in. But one of the first things I wrote down was, after that bit, I was like, we're going to see him again at some point, and he will be snatched, essentially. And assimilated, and lo and behold, that ends up happening. So you kind of, there's almost a sense of predictability about the film itself. There was a couple of bits where I sort of looked at it and I was like, yeah, this is going to happen, and then lo and behold, it happens. So
which is it is perfectly fine in these films, I think. I predict, because predictability is very subjective, I'd say. Anyway, so, but I know what you mean. I saw that coming.
But the thing is, I'm having to sit down and think about watching these films. I'm normally the kind of person who just sits down and switches off. But Proper Horror Show's got me researching it now.
Yeah, it's great.
I'm having to think.
Mission accomplished.
I'm having to think. I don't like thinking watching films.
No, you've actually got me into horror, which taken a while, I have to say. So, even though I like my drama, comedies, and sci-fi, but I mean, you can have horrors and true crime, thanks to T-Bag as well. YouTube is ruining my free time.
You know, if it helps. No, it's good. No, I'm glad you picked up on it. It's kind of an interesting thing. Like the 1993 kind of, as you said, it gets right into it. I kind of respect how blatant it is, and to put it in context, the 1993 version is 82 minutes long.
Yeah.
You know, that is we're going to stream longer than that film, okay? And Julian, did you just mention Brian Yuzna's Society? Julian, this is a respectable family stream. We do not discuss that film in this particular episode. We may discuss. Do not Google Society. Do not.
Streisand effect.
Oh gosh, definitely don't Google image search that movie. God, now I want to do a Brian Yuzna stream.
I've seen that picture before. It's fine.
Okay, so as you said, what I want to pick up on was the 1993 gets right into it. It tells you the premise straight away. It gives you a bit of a cheeky narrator input and tells you what's happening straight away. Interestingly, the 1956 does kind of similar. There was a bit of a contested edit of the film in the studio where the director wanted it to play out a bit more normally. And the studio wanted to top and tail it with an intro, and it ends up with something that, you know, I'll fully admit I'm completely biased in favor of. It does the foreshadowing flash forward intro, which I love. It's something you'll be familiar with from every episode of the series. The guy who knows what's going on rushing and trying to convince people that people's bodies are being taken over. Yeah. And you get a cold open with the guy just sort of coming in and saying what's happening and sounding completely delusional. Yeah. And then you go into him being a respectable family man in a standard, relatable California town. And it means you start the film with this kind of sense of dread. You know, this is your likable, familiar everyman that you can relate to, and how has he ended up like this? And then you're very how can I say, you can empathize with him very clearly as you go through it and see him follow the familiar pattern of getting suspicious and seeing something is not quite right but not being sure what's going on. Yeah. And it builds up really nicely.
Speaking of that, we need to talk about, like, when I sort of struggle to really sort of pinpoint any moment where Marty was suspecting anything was wrong in like the compound where they were staying, up until the point where, you know, it was revealed that the mother was one of the snatchers. You know, there was like the moment in the bar I sort of mentioned about earlier, the guy in the toilet who was warning her. They meet again, and as I mentioned, he's snatched already, and she recognizes him, and she's like, "Oh my god, that's the guy." And he sort of just turns around and says, "Nah, you must have had your girl's had too much to drink. You know, she needs to go home." And then she sort of just brushes it off, like, "Oh yeah, maybe I was mistaken." It's like you wouldn't forget a face like that, you know, given the circumstances. Like, surely you'd be thinking, why, you know.
Especially in a brand new town as well. Your guard would be up. That's what kind of annoyed me about the 93 film in general. They're all in a new town. They all know something's going. The dad knows something's going on because he has he's in the samples all the time and he can't identify things, and he still doesn't believe his kid. Yeah. And then his wife starts acting different, which he never mentions. I don't know how to. Well, it's kind of weird because at the start they're obviously very loving because you know they're on the bed.
Oh yeah, that's weird, that bit. She's all jumping, like bouncing up and down. I'm thinking, no. We don't. Real people don't do that.
well, maybe they do, maybe they don't in their own bedroom. But, I mean, it's a bit weird. But she never does it again, and she's a bit distant from him after she gets assimilated, and he just doesn't seem to notice.
No, it is a complete character. I think that's probably to emphasise it even more because obviously, you know, she was such an over the top character that she was acting almost like ADD on the bed with her half, and then as soon as she gets changed, she's just like, okay. You know,
Yeah.
because obviously they're emotionless anyway,
Mm.
and I think it's more strongly emphasised with her because she's probably, you don't see much of her, but from what little you do see, she seems quite animated. You know, she's the one singing in the car in the opening scene. She's the one running to her boy when, you know, he has a nightmare. She's the one who's, like I say, doing the ADD stuff on the bed when she's bouncing all over the stuff, bouncing all over it, playing with her husband.
Yeah.
And then, you know, then it sort of pans to later, and then she's standing outside, you know, motionless, waiting for the garbage truck to come round.
Yeah, and no one seems to notice apart from the kid. And the kid obviously knows because he saw the ashes of the old body, and he's screaming, saying it's not my mum, things like that.
Yeah.
And you know, initially as a parent, if you saw that, you might think, oh, he's just like scared of his new school and all that. But then when you see your wife acting completely differently, then at least be suspicious. I expected him to be suspicious, but he's just like, oh no, my daughter hates me. And talking to her and confiding in her in that. And I imagine she'd act differently. I don't know. So
I mean, it's a bit of a trope in horror films that like young kids are quite perceptive to this sort of thing. But I didn't really get the vibe that you needed a small child to be able to interpret what was going on there, or you know, to perceive something was strange. You know,
well they don't do it in the they don't do it in the 78 version.
They're not.
It's all adults in that, and they all well, you know, the ones that see the weird stuff going on, they all say it, and then obviously no one else believes them and that is more believable than the 96 version. Where everyone's acting different and strange, and no one seems to pick up on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that is actually really important to the interpretation of it, I think. Because trying to make sense of the 78 version, I find quite difficult. And maybe it's not trying to do anything in particular, not trying to have a particular message, but I think there's a fairly easy read of the 1993 one, and I think it's really important that in that one you're sort of it's the first time you're in with a young protagonist.
True.
And you know, I mean, we don't need to sort of separate the stream into two halves. Like think about this one, in that Marty is starting the film where she's got a stepmother, she's got a half brother. From her point of view, where she's already uprooted, to an extent, she already kind of feels like her family's been invaded. From her point of view, like her the mother role has been taken over, right? She hates the stepmother, who I didn't like when I watched this young. Now, happily, I turned out completely normal, but I watched this film very young.
Completely?
Well, I think it was society that did most of the damage. That would
Damn society.
It would work much better if that film had any other title. Maybe I should have gone with Slither. Slither would have done it.
Yes, settle down, Russo.
Actually, you mentioned about the whole invasion within the family. That's quite a good idea. That's, you know, because there's points. Obviously, like I say, the opening monologue, she alludes to the fact that she's been moved around, and you know, she just wants to settle down. And there's also a bit where they argue at the breakfast table, and she does turn around to her family and say, you know, like, if I was gone, you know, it'd be ideal for you, because then it would just be the three of you, referring to the stepmom, the dad, and the young boy. So she obviously feels quite ostracized anyway.
Yeah,
it's pretty broken down.
And
I thought that was okay. This is Abel Ferreira, director of The Driller Killer. People, just in your own time, just Google Driller Killer and see the cover for that film, and then tell me if you expect that director to be subtle.
Let's have a good look now.
I don't know how to do this on StreamYard because I'm a complete noob, but it's not a subtle video cover.
I'll put it this way: the eyes in Driller Killer are drill bits. That's how subtle it is.
For your own amusement. So I think this is actually kind of a nice subtle point, that she starts off really alienated, and to her, the process can get quite far before she notices it, because to her, the adult world is this kind of uncaring, overly rationalized collective. and
True.
she, it makes sense that the enemy of this sort of emotionless collective is a very emotional, highly individualized person. So a teenager, someone really trying to find themselves.
Yeah. So you can get away with her not realizing it. It's the rest of the adults that annoy me.
Yeah.
Well, keeping on the theme of individuality though, because I don't want to just criticize the film. No, you are right, and they're very explicit with that message, aren't they? Because when the it's a different black guy actually, but when the major is
Nice one.
well, there are so many. No, I'm not going to say that joke on YouTube.
When Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah, when Lawrence Fishburne. So when the general's trying to phone up saying things have gone crazy, and obviously it's like in the first one as well. They have they say the name back to them, and he's like, "How do you know my name?" And he goes mad. But when the others come in, ready to assimilate him, and he's got the gun. It was a bit too on the nose, I'd say.
Very much.
They're like, oh, it's all about the collective of the race, of the survival of the race.
Oh God, yeah.
It just says back, the individual's always important. It's like, okay.
But without the collective, the individual can't exist. It's
I imagine Driller Killer's a bit more subtle in this.
Yeah.
Hey, don't do down Carl Benjamin's first script writing work. Uncredited script rewrite.
I thought it was Richard Spencer when he was talking about the race.
Yeah, that's it.
I did sort of when I heard that bit.
Yeah.
And then they started talking about collectivism. I'm thinking, oh, okay, they just got they're commies. They're commies.
Yeah. Which is it's a message I can get behind. It was just executed, not in a too much a blatant way that people are just gonna. It's people are just gonna ignore it. You do need these. You kind of need people to search for these things.
Yeah, they've come there to assimilate, not to debate. And it felt like in that moment, it just felt like the moment that the moderator was going to turn up and give them 5 minutes each, and then 2 minutes rebuttal time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was odd because in the first one, when they have the similar scene with Matthew and Elizabeth, when Leonard Nimoy comes in to inject them, I think they do that quite a bit better because they're more like, don't be afraid. Your memories will still be there. You just won't have any negative emotions.
Right.
And they don't. I think they just say you don't have positive ones as well, but they just say, but it's good because you've got all of us. And you won't feel pain anymore. Whereas obviously in the '93 one, it's like, oh, it's for the survival of the human race. It's about the collective, and it's shut up! Come on, just say it will be painless, and then he can say, no, I don't want to be like you, or you all. Have it a bit more subtle like that. He can call them zombies, like you're just zombified. You're not. Imply that they're not individuals. That the message is spot on. The message is fine. The execution, as we said, terrible.
Yeah.
But this is what I mean. That's when it kind of stopped being scary to me and started just being quite funny. Which is a bit of a shame. I think.
Really loved that scene. I thought Forrest Whitaker absolutely nailed it. And you've got Arlie Ermy, Gunnery Sergeant Harmon facing off with him.
I think the terror and the psychosis portrayed by Forrest Whitaker in that scene was top notch. Don't get me wrong. I think he acted that brilliantly. I think it was more of
the dialogue itself.
Yeah, I think it was more of a scripting thing. But I think Forrest Whitaker did a brilliant job with that. I mean, there he is, loading up his guns, popping pills, we could do, there's nothing we could do now. We just got to stand and fight. And he's going absolutely mental. And I'm thinking, mate, he sounds like someone who's actually having an actual crisis moment. And then the other guy's just, a bit wooden. But Forrest Whitaker definitely carried that. And then the back and forth between Arlie Ermy and Forrest Whitaker again was good, but I think it was more of a scripting thing. Like you say, it was a bit on the nose, but I think it's a workman's only as good as the tools he's got, and I think they did a brilliant job with the tools that they had.
Yeah,
But it
definitely.
could have been. But imagine how good it could have been if it was maybe
Subtle.
a little bit more subtle. Yeah.
Yeah. As I mean, yeah, I totally agree with that. Everything about the scene is fine apart from the dialogue. And that's what I mean. The dialogue was just so on the nose. I found it a bit funny. I mean, I did like, get sad when he shot himself as well. Don't get me wrong. But
He didn't put up a fight. He said he was going to fight, and he didn't put up a fight.
Yeah, but I was fine with that. He knows his. There's no way he has enough time because they're way too close, and he probably didn't have enough ammo to kill them all.
Probably not, but
so
still.
yeah, I appreciate that he killed himself. I think that was a better move. Definitely. I mean, it's still like a 7, 8 out of 10 scene. It's just the dialogue kind of makes it go down a bit, unfortunately. But
there are several. Oh, sorry,
several.
mate. Go ahead.
No. That's all. Go on.
I was going to say, as I think you do nail it, and this is part of why I feel the 1993 Body Snatchers doesn't get the love, because it is a bit of a blunt instrument in there, and frequently what I am doing on this channel when I am highlighting underloved things is I'm going to point you to movies that are not 10 out of 10s. Then they're not in the 8 or 9 region, and to be honest, on balance, that there may be a 7 if we're generous. But I think in amidst them there will be quite powerful scenes and powerful ideas that I think are quite wonderful.
Yeah,
and
go on.
In this, I would say it's not very polished.
Yeah, I mean,
but there are some beautiful moments. I mean, I absolutely love that you picked up on in the. There is a wonderful scene, folks, in the Children's Day School where all the kids are drawing pictures and they all draw the same thing except
Andy, I think his name.
Andy,
Andy?
Yeah.
And
the baby.
It's so creepy. It's so creepy.
But then at the same time, again, we talk about scripting issues. There's that bit. So everything's out now, and the kids have been hiding, and excuse me, they're singing like the songs singing a song to Andy to try and keep him calm. And then he turns around to her and says, "Nobody believed me." And you think, okay, that's a good opportunity for her to be like, "I'm sorry, I know." Her response was, "Shh," and then it changes scene. And you think,
oh
yeah, like what?
Yeah,
that was a lost opportunity for me. For them to sort of...
Yeah, it definitely was a lost opportunity. I mean, this is the thing. I've come away from that film thinking the kid Andy was just a plot device.
He was underused, and it is kind of a shame. You're taking a risk with child actors, and I don't think he was terrible, but a really good child actor. I'm probably going to get this wrong. I want to say Mika Hughes.
Okay.
So if you want a rapid nostalgia hit here, Miko Hughes, I think, the same kid from Kindergarten Cop. Just letting that nostalgia drip in, guys. Just soak it up. Kindergarten Cop.
I've never seen that either. Sorry.
It's not a
my God, Haryan, stop being young. We've talked
I've seen
about
loads
this.
of Marvel.
Anyway, the same kid in Kindergarten Cop was also in Pet Sematary and Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Now, if he had gone in Body Snatchers, I think it'd maybe have carried it a bit better. But the director Abel Ferreira, I don't think he quite connects Andy's story as well, because I think if we're a bit more focused on him, we'd have got some amazing scenes. Would have really felt how freaked out he is, that no one is believing him.
That's a good point.
He's not even sure what to expect, what's normal.
Yeah, that just reminded me, actually, because we were talking about this before the stream when we talk about the terror and the fear that kid has. The scene where he just goes into the bedroom to see his mum, and she sort of just dissolves into like ash, and then the snatcher comes out of the, I think it was the kid at the bathroom, stark raving naked, starkers, And obviously he knows what's going on. That's not my mum. And then the scream he lets off, and the running down the stairs while he's screaming. That bit for me, that was a good example of good child acting. Actually, I was quite convinced by the fear.
Yeah.
In that moment, but I do agree he was definitely underused, and I think he was more of a plot device. There were some missed opportunities with that particular character. Like I said, like going back to where he's like, nobody believed me, and you're like, they could have had a good reconciliation moment, because Marty was obviously jealous of the relationship that they had with Andy, and that could have been a good moment for them two to get back on track. But then just to go shh and then change scene, I'm like, oh.
Yeah. I was thinking he's just used to get Tim and to introduce Tim and Marty with each other, but because I was trying to remember how he ran away, but he ran away from the daycare, didn't he? Because he found it too creepy. Yeah. So that's not actually too bad. That's when he's less of a plot device and actually acting like a kid, and then the rest of it's just. He does act like a kid. He just doesn't really have character. He's just he could be any 3-year-old, and that doesn't make it particularly interesting. Unfortunately, and I think apart from the mother, maybe, because all she needs to do is die, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is a serious theme there in like that really creepy idea of your mother going away, your parental figure just sort of suddenly being cold and distant is to a young kid really creepy. But since you mentioned Tim, I have to ask, did either of you sort of start doing the mental maths on how old Tim is?
Yes. Oh my God.
Tim,
yes.
the love interest,
yes.
the helicopter pilot, by the way, folks, if you haven't seen it, the teenage character Marty, who is specifically stated to be turning 18 soon, has a love interest who's a helicopter pilot.
How old would you have to be? Hang on, let me try and work out the minimum age.
How old was Harry when he was flying helicopters?
Yeah.
But I very much noticed that, and I was a bit like,
Yeah.
Would they be okay for Romeo and Juliet laws?
It'd probably be fine for Germany.
Yeah, maybe. Let's be fair. There are only two women. There are only two, women under 30 in that whole neighborhood. Give them a bit of a break,
Yeah.
I don't want to go all cinema sins here, but that's one of the things that stood out to me, as well as the scene you mentioned where they are hiding while their father goes to look for help.
Yeah.
And Andy's trying to do that. No one believes me, and she says, "Shut up." I also thought, you're meant to be hiding, and you're like, what's a really good idea? Let's just sing a song while we're hiding.
I thought that as well. I was a bit like, you're supposed to be shutting up.
That was. I'd go with a thumb war personally.
Yeah, well, you say thumb war. They did the Never Have I Ever game as well.
Yeah,
not with her brother.
No, but with the love interest. I was thinking at that moment, because I know she's 17, but how many people do that in the middle of the woods? Never have I ever. And again, I felt that was designed to provide exposition, I suppose, almost for Tim, because she started asking questions about personality. It was all, especially a bit like, do you hide emotions? And it's like, yes. And obviously that comes into play later on when he's having to hide his emotions to get the helicopter.
True.
I didn't actually pick up on that, so I think kudos to you. I missed that.
No,
I'm learning from the best here.
Yeah, I did notice that, and I thought that was a kind of it was kind of implying that he's part of the Borg. What do we call them? The Snatched, I guess. Yeah, because I couldn't tell if he was snatched or not right up until he was actually trying to save her. Really, because he did seem very emotionless. He never smiled.
Yeah, so he seemed like a good fit for the Snatched. Talking about it, I was watching one of your videos, actually, proper horror show the other day, and you mentioned about. Oh well, I'll watch all yours too.
I'm checking.
But you mentioned about Chekhov's gun, And I felt that moment when they're doing the Never Have I Ever, because I actually went and looked it up because I'd never heard of the concept before. And I've been trying to look for examples since. And I felt like the bit where they're doing Never Have I Ever, when she mentions about the emotion, like, do you hide emotions? And he says, like, obviously he puts his finger down because obviously he hides his emotions. That was the gun being loaded. And then the scene where he's trying to get the helicopter, that's essentially him hiding his emotions. Boom, the gun goes off. That's your plot device later. So it wasn't ignored. It was brought into play later. It doesn't have to be a gun, I hope.
Well, I think
it's set up and payoff. It's one of the hallmarks of good writing.
It is, yeah.
And this is how little I knew of the concept of Chekhov's gun. I actually thought it was a Star Trek reference. I genuinely thought it was a Star Trek reference.
I think one of your best modern examples of Chekhov's gun is the Winchester from Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead, yeah.
Because they keep mentioning it, and then and then they actually use it in the end. Yeah, so that is all on that horror film.
It's an excellent example, and
we should do those 3 films. By the way, just saying. Go on.
I am so up for that. I have deep feels on all of them, especially The World's End. I kind of rate that the highest.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but I think it's better than people say it is. I'd say. But we're Body Snatchers. Body Snatchers.
Body Snatchers. I don't know. Some things that stand out to me, like I'd like to talk about a reading of the film and how the reading of that one contrasts with the reading of the others. But I also kind of, since we mentioned Tim, I'd like to talk about some of the lovely 90s elements. Like, I like this film, and I like this film so much that I am happy to, spend a little time talking about the epitome of 90s cool that was Meg.
Yeah.
Did you guys find Meg cool?
No.
In a cringe sort of way.
Yeah. She was she was too cringe. She was more cringe than cool. Again, I made, do you know, when I was taking notes, I called her Red Car Lady.
Her name was Jen.
Yeah,
Sorry, folks. My bad.
I called her Red Car Lady to begin with, and I think the opening bit is because Marty's walking along, and she's monologuing to herself again, and then just she's stopped abruptly by the MPs that are there, and they're like, you're trespassing now, blah blah blah, and it starts to get a bit like, oh, hang on, because they start surrounding her, and then she pulls up and she's like, pretty much like, what's up, bitches, or something along those lines, and then she's just like, hop in, like to Martin, like, no questions asked, in you get. Like, I'm thinking, you don't know this person.
But she's got a leather jacket.
Yeah, I know, but this was the 90s. This was the 90s. This was the height of stranger danger. I mean, you're not sending the right message out there. Exactly.
No, she looks legit, Also, fun fact, people, the wonderful, like, I'm not dissing her. I kind of love the retrospective. This was cool in the 90s. And looking at it from now, whereas obviously we're the coolest thing going.
Absolutely.
We've got it going on. So Jen is played by Christine McCarthy, who horror fans will know from Child's Play 2. A little bit of trivia for you all there. If you haven't seen Child's Play 2, it is fantastic. It's really enjoyable, and I think possibly that comes out in. I'm going to quickly check. I think it was 1990. It was 1990. I need another hobby. I shouldn't know that.
It's
that comes out in 1990. This is 1993. So I think it's possibly why she got the role, because she's got that kind of good vibe at doing slightly rebellious teenage characters.
Wasn't she supposed to be the same age as Jenny as well? Not Jenny, Marty.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
How I read it.
At least similar. I don't know. She might have been 18, 19. I don't know. Well, she had a boyfriend in the army, didn't she, as well?
Yeah.
Is that more creepy than Tim? I don't know.
Murgu
Ranger
thinks she was
danger.
cringe when it came out.
Really? I'd know Murgu. I watched a lot of Saved by the Bell. I think she was on that level of cool.
I mean, it was a nice
is-
car.
Yeah, he is
That was the first
American,
thing I
to be
noticed.
fair. It might be you looking into American coolness that kind of makes you think it's cooler. And Murgu is American. And that's kind of like, oh, it's cringe. They're trying to reflect American coolness. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm guessing.
Unfortunate.
Please
Now,
elaborate.
being nice and calm, folks, and remembering this is a family show, could I ask for your thoughts on the bath scene?
More
Ew.
tit, please.
Damn it, Haryan.
Well,
No.
when it came to the nudity, no, don't get me wrong, I'm not averse to that in films in general, but knowing that she was a 17-year-old girl or playing a 17-year-old, and there was that sort of, it felt very uncomfortable, watching that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just the whole tentacles, or the roots coming down, and I'm not gonna lie, I know what you're thinking, Harry, and stop it.
Very
We're talking about
Japanese,
the horror
very
of it,
Japanese
Haryan.
cartoon.
I'm
We're talking
thinking,
about how effective the horror was.
Well, it reminded me of hentai, so very horrific.
Hang on, Richard Orrit, are you seriously asking what Saved by the Bell is?
oh my god,
Oh,
have we found someone who's younger than Haryan? Screech died, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
that was terrible.
No, Richard's like in his 30s, I think.
I'm in my 30s. I know what Saved by the Bell is. I grew up with it.
Don't scare us like that.
Yeah.
Richard, no. Everyone has seen Saved by the Bell. Everyone knows Kelly Kapowski. Okay.
Yes.
Anyway, sorry.
Everyone
we're talking
over
about
30. Go on. Yeah, the
We're
effectiveness
talking about the horror impact of that scene, because I have
frightening.
some thoughts on it. I think it's kind of awesome, but I'd love your thoughts on whether that scene was effective horror.
If we remove the uncomfortableness of it being a potentially underage child in the bath, just the thought of going out the way that people have been and actually seeing it play out, that whole concept to me is quite disturbing. It feels quite obviously because essentially they consume you. Right. And it's suffocating, it's claustrophobic. You feel trapped in that moment, and that was the sense I got. Although when they came round, because obviously this is happening when they're sleeping, so they're not putting up a fight. But it did feel like they were quite easy. They were quite easily able to break out of the grasp once they come to, because obviously they couldn't do anything then. But just that whole thought of essentially dying in your sleep through suffocation or constriction in that method, it doesn't sit well with me. I found it quite haunting.
Yeah, it was the juxtaposition of having one of the most relaxing and safest places you can be, a bubble bath, is sleeping in it, and then you start to have you start to get assimilated, and your copy's being made above you, and you're none the wiser because you fell asleep.
Oh my god, yeah, of course, yeah. And then I completely forgot about that part when it fell through.
Yeah, and then it falls through because you wake up. What wakes her up again?
It's literally that the body, the clone is growing. It's growing in the I guess you'd call it crawl space above her.
Yeah.
And it's lovely logic, of course. That is a great place to stash the pod that then sends out its tendrils down into her in the bath. But obviously, if the clone is growing up there, the roof will not support it, and so it collapses. I thought that was lovely logic.
Yeah.
And
she wakes up before it actually falls through, though. Because she starts tearing it off, and I think that's what makes it fall through. Because when you tear them off, they kind of spasm, and I thought that was what made it fall through. So something else woke her up, I think.
It was slightly weak editing that it could have been fixed. It could have been made a stronger connection, but I think just as has been picked up, you've got you're meant to be relaxing. You're naked. You're in the bath. Everything is there to sort of show vulnerability.
I was gonna say you're at your most vulnerable at that moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's just after that it kicks off. But the scene also made me really think of Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes,
And
I
their
was going
very
to say that.
famous battle
Yes,
scene.
yes, I was going to say that actually.
Yeah.
As you would, yeah. Well, no, I wasn't going to say it, but I was thinking Nightmare
Hmm.
on Elm Street as you were sort of describing that. Yeah.
Is that? Sorry, I've never seen it, but I might know the scene. Is that where the hand comes out the bath?
It
Yes.
is. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
comes out sort of mind out the gutter chat between her legs in the bath. It's a wonderful effect because
Yeah.
you just logically know that there can't be anyone in the bathtub with her. And so
Yeah.
a gloved hand coming out just sort of spooks you.
It's a reverse teeth.
We are going to have a teeth stream. It's going to happen.
I believe you. I can't wait till you tell me I have to watch that film.
I have thoughts about teeth. But one thing I find interesting, and you might call it derivative, you might call it stealing, but I think it's kind of good for a movie, especially when it's a remake, to sort of consider what worked well in the previous one and what worked well in previous films and sort of carry them over and refine it.
I was going to bring this up actually. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, it's the bathroom scene was done. The bath scene was done. I think was much more effective than the scene in the '78 version with Donald Sutherland just sleeping, and his hand off the thing. That was still horrific, but I think the bath scene was a lot, and especially with the effects that they can do as well with the. Like you can do the tendrils a lot better in the '90s, because they were more like fibers in 78, they were fine. They did the job, but the tendrils actually going up the nose and things like that. That's a lot. That's a lot more horrific.
That's what
much more
because it's
disturbing.
violating. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I didn't like. The whole like going up your nose and like down your throat, and just the thought of that happening.
Yeah,
you can't, putting yourself in that position, that would not be a nice way to go.
I think they worked out something that was very potent that the other films are previous to maybe hadn't made as much of. Like, I mean, if you're taking someone while they sleep, they're vulnerable. But I think the 1993, by having it be a younger girl in a bathtub where the soap suds are there, you're not seeing much. Unfortunately, the hospital scene then goes and gets really creepy with that. But we will we will ignore that for the moment.
Yep.
They managed to accentuate it, and then with the effects, it's that much more creepy and invasive. And it was really good to do that. And you'll also notice that there were three other elements that were carried over from the previous films that they thought, okay, that works really well. Let's use that. And they were the I think you already mentioned the clones doing the head back, pointing and screaming at people they've identified as not being clones. They kept that from the second. They also kept the idea of I mean, I love it. It's so morbid. But people the clones disposing of their original corpses in the garbage trucks.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah. See, because I hadn't seen any of the films leading up to it, and I don't know if I'm thinking of like a different horror genre, but I was sure that their bodies were like, so obviously they would assimilate and they would obviously form their own sort of doppelganger, but then the originals would be like in some sort of pod themselves, like in stasis, and then essentially that would be like their life support. And then obviously when I saw the mum turn to ash, I was still thinking maybe she's been transported somewhere. Nope.
Oh, right.
No, she's definitely I don't know if I'm thinking of a different franchise or if I'm just getting it mixed up, but I was adamant in my mind up until the point when, I say, then even after she turned to ash, I was like, surely she's still alive, like somewhere, like they're going to save like the whole town. And it was just, oh, okay, I'm wrong, very wrong.
And that was a thing that the '78 version I don't think did too well. Exactly what happens to the bodies, because when Elizabeth first wakes up with Jeffrey just with a dustpan and brush, it's not obvious what's happened to his original body. Really, you just see him throw out a garbage bag, and it's like, well, what's he done with the original body? You never actually see original bodies turn to ash.
Right.
Well, you don't. Do you ever? Oh no, you do actually. Sorry, because it happens to Elizabeth. I'm wrong there. She dies when Donald Sutherland's found her after she's been assimilated, and she's barely alive.
Okay.
In the bushes near the end.
Right.
Yeah, and I think she turns to ash, or she kind of goes into a pulp or something. I can't quite remember, unfortunately. But
right.
No, I am wrong there. Sorry. Sorry, it is obvious. Well, this happens in live streams when you don't make notes. But so that's I guess another thing is that has been directly taken from the first one to the second one. The original copies, turn to ash or goop or whatever, and yeah, the copies then have to dispose of them. It's not obvious to me if the garbage people are assimilated and they take it somewhere special, or if it's just your regular rounds. I guess you can definitely tell in the first one that it's the 78 that it's just garbage men normally, because her husband is the first person to go, I think.
Right.
And then other people have been taken in because obviously the flowers turn up in a park and they're all like, oh, I'll take them home to your parents.
Oh, no.
Which means they probably died, yeah. So, yeah, that worked well. And was another creepy aspect of it, because it's like, oh, at first you're thinking what they're doing with the garbage bags. Although I guess it's quite obvious if people are paying a lot of attention and work it out, but I didn't at first, so...
I'll say I didn't until I say when the stepmom's outside waiting for the garbage, and I think and that was when I sort of clocked. That's why they're coming round. That's why they're obviously chucking away them. But yeah, because I think there's a scene earlier when they go round and everyone's sort of coming out. It's almost synchronized in a way, like they come round. And people would just be waiting, chucking him in. And I'm thinking, like, what are they doing? Like, what are they actually doing? Like, what are they chucking in there? Obviously, I'm thinking they are assimilated or snatched people. But, like, what are they actually... Like, is it just they're chucking away their rubbish or something else? I didn't think of it to be at the time. I didn't think of it at the time. Although I did sort of pick up vibes early on that the town would eventually, or the compound would eventually get... snatched, because there's again the scene when they go into the house, when they first get into the area, and obviously the girl goes up into her room, and then it does that sort of panning shot across the street through her window, and you can see all the kids playing outside excitedly, and I thought to myself at that point, you're going to see those kids act differently later on, and then lo and behold, you go to that scene where they're all drawing the same picture, and they're not. There's no energy in them. They're just they're carrying out the motions. Point. Yeah, they're just going through the motions, aren't they?
Yeah, it's something both the films do really well, I think. And that's what I do like about the first one as well. It's on the first day that her husband gets assimilated, that her boyfriend gets assimilated, that she realizes, oh, this isn't you,
right?
And then she starts trying to ask questions about it, and then she's only suspicious at first, but it's quite quick. It's not too long. Before she realizes he's just not himself anymore. She goes to his office, doesn't she? It's only about 20-30 minutes in that happens. Whereas in the second one, obviously, it actually takes a bit longer for anyone to even realize something's going on. I think it's around the halfway mark where Jen says, "Oh, drink this." It's like, "Oh, it's water." Yeah, it's not vodka.
Yes, of course, yeah.
It's like, oh, she doesn't know how to play bridge. It's like,
For reference, that's the most 90s touch. So Jen, our really cool sort of 90s leather jacket wearing punk cool character. She's really kind of like nihilistic and Gen X-y because her mother's an alcoholic and she's just kind of disparaging and doesn't care about it and kind of laughs it off. But she's really concerned when her mother stops drinking.
Yeah.
And I thought that's like the most like 90s Gen X joke, whilst also being a kind of creepy point, but there's something kind of like ironic in the background of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's definitely to the film's credit that because that was set up before, because they go into her house and her mother's passed out because she's been drinking vodka
with a still lit cigarette in her hand.
Yeah,
this is why Dad's such an insomniac. He's worried the bitch is going to burn the house down.
Yeah, exactly.
That's your mum.
Yeah, but that is very 90s nihilism, to be fair.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, and yeah, as I said, that's why I prefer, I guess, this 78 version, because people I think are reacting realistically to what's going on around them, whereas in the 93 version, people kind of ignore it, which I don't think would happen as much. And the only one not ignoring it is a 3-year-old toddler. All right.
I mean, I would say that comes down to very much the meaning of the third one. Essentially, what I think it's trying to say is that the big institutions, something especially like the army, could be taken over without people really noticing. I think it's kind of making a point about the dehumanizing influence of major institutions.
Taken over by the communists.
Well, that is a really interesting contention, because I feel I should note from my research that the people who made the 1956 original, whose lead actor is Kevin McCarthy, let's just all enjoy that for a moment. They deny that this film about an alien influence which subtly takes you over and means you stop identifying as a rugged American individual and become part of some evil alien collective that seeks to betray the nation and convert others. That this made in 1956, they insist, was not about communism.
Sure.
Sure, buddy.
Well, I'm kind of on side with that, just because they are a collective. They've not got an ideology behind them, do they? Really, they just want to assimilate, from the looks of it. It's not like they've got the actual precise, communist, socialist ideas behind it. It's just assimilate everyone, as far as we can tell from the film. But it definitely is a message about individualism and the freedom and the free will is a lot better than the collectivist determinism.
Harry and the clones are literally under people's beds. They're literally Reds under the bed. No, you make a fair point. It's a very flexible allegory.
You say that, but I don't know how strong this connection could be, but they, in terms of ideology, but they do say when they're having the intellectual debate with Forrest Whitaker that if they are assimilated and they're all one, then that will end all division,
all conflict,
all conflict. There'll be no more tensions. Everyone will be happy. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. No, they didn't say that last bit, I'm sure, but
sure, but they do say that, but that again, that's not really on a proletarian. That's not on a Marxian axis, is it? That's the thing. It's just the axis of pure collectivism versus pure individualism, which isn't the same thing as Marxism versus whoever's anti-Marxist, which is everyone these days.
Could you infer it though? So you don't have to be necessarily so on the nose. But
sure.
if you just sprinkle a little bit of the message on the top, then you can sort of infer maybe they're trying to talk about. I mean, they could be talking about something else completely differently. I mean, you could be absolutely
this is the thing. You can absolutely infer that, but I think I need more than just that intellectual debate to say it. This is an anti-communist message. You can definitely infer it though. Yeah. I'm happy to say that. I just personally wouldn't. I don't think there's enough in the film for that. I think it was just trying to scare people.
I think it's there. We could go for a compromise on it's a reflection of the zeitgeist, even if it wasn't conscious. How about that?
Let's do it.
Fine.
Okay, but just the reason I say that is, okay, I'm kind of narrativizing here. Obviously, there's a lot in there. If these these creatures are communism, then why are zombies not communism? Why are vampires converting people not communism? You know, it's
Zombies are capitalists. Consume,
you could.
consume.
Ooh. Well, yeah, you go to Dawn of the Dead. You could start making that. Actually, oh no. Okay. We could maybe have a capitalist zombie versus commie zombie stream if we brought in Plague of the Zombies, but that is we will not get sidetracked.
No.
That's a separate search. But what I wanted to do to kind of narrativize is that what I find interesting is I really do see the 1956 one as quite a strong defense of Americanism, of tradition, of individualism, and against that sort of collective threat. But then we want to get to the 1993 and definitely the Faculty, which I think we haven't discussed much. And those, you get to that, and you've got teenage protagonists, and isn't the message in those more against the American institutions? Aren't they suspicious of the traditions? Aren't they so individualistic that they're sort of looking at traditions and social norms and sort of looking at them as a collective?
Possibly. I mean, all the main characters in those films are vastly different, so I can see your point there.
I mean, I think it's there in. It's definitely there for me in Body Snatchers, where, you know, your teenage character is out of place, and she's got the cool rebel friend who doesn't fit in with the institution. But in the Faculty, they are all basically outcasts.
Yeah. You've got because you've got, who have you got in there? You've got Elijah Wood, who's clearly the kid who gets bullied by everyone.
Very young Elijah Wood.
Yeah. You got Zeke, who is Josh Hartnett's character, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Who obviously he's the druggie. He's the drug dealer.
Yep. You've got the jock and the cheerleader who are having to sort of keep how smart they are quiet.
Yeah.
You've got the goth chick played by a personal favourite of mine, Clea Duvall.
Okay. Oh yeah, I remember her, yeah.
I never see her in enough, but I kind of love every time I see Clea Duvall. For the kind of film I would never discuss on this channel, sadly, she's amazing in But I'm a Cheerleader, for anyone who watches more niche films.
Can't say I've seen that. Haryan might have, though.
I have not.
I'm sure you've seen plenty of films with cheerleaders in them.
It's an LGBT romance comedy. It's lovely.
Oh,
it's wholesome.
How not to sell a film, isn't it?
The one black guy would be Usher, Richard.
Yeah, he would be. And I believe he still is.
Yes.
And also just we're laying out the cast of characters there, but they are all people who effectively, even the popular ones, are having to sort of hide aspects of themselves. And that's why they end up in this group, and they are looking at the kind of institutions and groups and traditions that the first film would have said it was defending. And they're looking at them with suspicion, you know, like the school sports team and school in general. And they've made them the threat. So by the time you get to 1998 and Robert Rodriguez directing, you're getting this thing where it's kind of maybe not nihilism, but that Gen X attitude is now looking at the original stuff as a source of control and enforcement and de-individualization. And that is quite a turnaround in a film series.
It's definitely more prominent, I think, from what I can remember in The Faculty. I'm just trying to cast my mind back to that film. It's actually one of my favorite horrors.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah,
it's so good. I absolutely love it.
But I'm just trying to think because how does it? Because it's the opening. There's the opening scene, isn't there? With the is
You've
it
got Robert
Patrick?
Patrick,
Robert
who
Patrick.
obviously he's not long been the T1000 in T2,
Yeah.
and he's bringing that energy to being a really creepy PE teacher.
Mm-hmm. Because it was one of the, not the head teacher, but it was one of the one with the blonde hair, the really weird fringe. She gets.
Are you thinking of Nancy Cartwright?
I think I might be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bart Simpson.
Yeah.
Really?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You will be shocked, folks, if you watch The Faculty, who is in that film.
I did
you will
not
be
know.
astounded.
I did not know.
Nancy Cartwright is a teacher in there. Okay, we're going to do the list here. So you got Nancy Cartwright,
Yeah.
you've got Salma Hayek, and to be honest,
Yes.
do you ever not want to have Salma Hayek?
Definitely not. Definitely.
You've got Robert Patrick, you've got Famke Janssen,
yeah,
of X-Men fame and Nip
Mhm.
Tuck disgrace, and I'm messing up now. There's oh dear, there's a guy who's in Starship Troopers, and he's not Michael Ironside, and I feel really awful for forgetting his name.
Christopher McDonald.
Might be that. He's another one of the teachers. Basically, you've got an amazing cast in the teachers.
He was in Happy Gilmore. Christopher McDonald. He's the guy who eats pieces of shit for breakfast.
Oh no!
He's Shooter. Shooter. I think his name is. That's my favourite line in that film. I know. I'm sorry to sort of go in a completely different direction, but that's like my favourite line in the film when he turns around there, happy, and he turns around. He's like, "I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast," and then Happy's like, "You eat pieces of shit for breakfast?"
Yeah.
And then he's like, "No."
Oh God.
We also forgot Jon Stewart. With basically Jon Stewart just looking like Gordon Freeman from Half-Life.
I need to see this film.
Oh, mate,
oh my god, Haryan. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I absolutely love it. Daniel von Bargen is a guy I was thinking of. Anyway, amazing cast in The Faculty, and yeah, just what I'm trying to get there is this idea that it's really flipped it round there.
Shooter McGavin, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
In terms of the whole messaging of the series.
Yeah, because they're very much, like you said, they're very much individual characters, almost brought together by the circumstances that have come. Because I can't remember exactly how they all get together. Are they like in a detention or something?
I think some of them are in a detention. Basically, actually, the Faculty is notable for not having pods. I think they have. You are infected by weird little creatures that look a bit like what do they call them?
Earwig?
No, sorry, I've forgotten the name. Anyway, they're weird little amphibious things. They find one and take it to the science class to see what the heck it is, and the science teacher, Jon Stewart, is really interested, throws it in the water in the little fish tank they have, and it comes alive. And basically they engineer it so all your outcasts are in the room when it basically all goes down.
Don't they find that specimen on the field? Because they do see Robert Patrick, I think, earlier on, just standing out in the field while the sprinklers are going off, and he's just staring at the class, isn't he? And I think they find that that bug, we'll call it a bug later, because they're like, oh, we don't recognise this, because Jon Stewart's like he's like an expert, isn't he, on bugs? Well, that's like his little niche, because he's like, oh, you found a new species, and like you say, then he dunks it in the water, and then it starts to rapidly grow, and it's that bit when it's poor CGI, I suppose, by today's standards, but that thing when it sort of like opens its mouth and then sort of bites at the fish tank glass. I'm being like a 11, 12-year-old watching that and just being like, ugh.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's a great scene. I mean, folks, if you haven't seen The Faculty, see The Faculty.
Watch The Faculty. I have to go and watch it then.
Jesus, okay,
Yeah.
gee, I'll do it. God.
Everyone, maybe we'll do a Faculty stream. But
Yes.
what I'm trying to get across is, something I find is so interesting, because how they're spaced out is that these films really change hugely in their messaging for when they are made. And that's why I'm quite interested in the fact that they are making a new one, and they're looking at a new one, because, you know, I don't want to repeat a lot of the stuff we're sort of seeing every day, but do you think there might be, well, let's just say if they're doing Invasion of the Body Snatchers in our time, do you think we have any room for a story about, you know, a movement in institutions that is making everyone collectivist?
Yeah.
Might be a stretch.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Again, just don't make it too on the nose. if you do, I don't. Yeah, would it be hard to make a modern day Body Snatchers film? Because the problem with modern horror films is that everyone's got iPhones and stuff. Which I know we talked about last week. Scream 4 dealt with that quite well with the webcams, and it's like, oh, you got to record the kills now. But with Body Snatchers, I mean, you could probably have more ingenious ways of assimilating people then. Because
could it be through the phone?
I don't know. I would suggest actually
maybe.
something that's quite an interesting opportunity for the film is the idea of, how would we know? Like, if we are really isolated from each other, if we're doing most of our communication remotely and digitally, is it possible that we wouldn't know? That we'd possibly find it harder to tell if someone was really them?
Yeah, you could definitely do that through, like, you know, text messages and things like that and WhatsApps. I'm thinking more because a big problem with the film is that people are claiming they're seeing doubles and things like that, and the problem is that there's no evidence for it. And this is what 93 did quite well, because he had to go back and get the tissue sample from the guy who got the acid spilt on him. Because I think it was either an already assimilated guy or one they were going to assimilate.
Yes.
So yeah, you'll have to do something like that. Whereas modern day, it'd just be like, oh my god, look at this double picture.
Okay, I kind of love that I think in most of those films, they try and do the science sample that proves it, and everything goes to hell way before that can ever be relevant. And it always cracks me up.
Because the science dad has to send off the sample, doesn't he? Because he's like, I don't know what the hell this is. I'll send it to you, and then he does, and the whole town's assimilated anyway. So it's a bit like it's like in Among Us when there's 3 innocents left and two imposters, and it's like, oh well, game's pretty much over now, isn't it? It's a bit like that when the ratio is high enough assimilated people. Because she says that when the wife's assimilated, she says, "Oh, where are you going to run and hide? Everyone's assimilated." And you don't know how true that is, because they are sending out all those trucks. And he's like, "Oh, send them to these army bases, things like that."
That's right. He's just standing there going, West Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina.
Yeah.
Just like he knows, and he's just
So he knows. Yeah, he knows where to send them. So how many people there? Are there enough people there to get the trucks out? I don't know. It's a thing you never find out, because they end up just blowing it all up with a helicopter.
Can we just talk about that actually? Because
go for it.
That scene where they were missiling everything
in the helicopter. Apocalypse now.
Did anyone else watching that particular scene get Terminator 2 vibes when Linda Hamilton's at the playground and that nuke goes off, and obviously everything gets destroyed and all the people were blown to bits? I just got like the saturation of the color, of that scene. It gave me T2 vibes. So yeah, Apocalypse is a good description.
I did feel like that scene didn't fit in well with the movie. Like, it did seem quite bizarre.
James De Silva in the chat makes a good point. We can't have the body catchers without the thing.
100% true. And if you look at the faculty, that's 100. I mean, the faculty kind of blends them because they have a scene that is very much like the thing, where they work out a test to work out which of them is taken over, and it's I mean, in both of those movies, it's one of the best things.
Yeah.
There's also, oh gosh, there's also a thing that is in the first 3 that I really love, and it's the idea of when a character makes a phone call and the operator just says, calls them by their name and says they can't connect the call, and the person freaks out because it's like, how do you know who I am? How do you know? And I thought that could actually work today, right? I mean, in the 90s, not so much, but can't you picture now, like, if you've said the wrong thing, if you're the wrong kind of person, you try and use your phone, you try and use your account, and the tech provider just says no. I mean, I'm seeing potential, and I'm seeing a lot of updatability to that scenario.
I mean, it's entirely possible. I mean, it's not as if you're calling somewhere, they can't screen your calls in advance, so they know who they're talking to on the other line.
Yeah, I think the tech's advanced enough that sort of a controller would be able to just shut you off, and they'd know enough to say no, not you.
Oh yeah.
And furthermore, you'd be trackable. I mean, the kind of paranoia you can generate with this story, I think, is amazing. And
that's a good point about the tracking, because everyone carries a mobile phone nowadays, and that essentially is a tracking device for everybody. So that's it. That's a good concept, or good idea.
So one thing I'd like to ask is just it seems like we probably should ask it about a horror film. Did you find it scary, Teabag?
Did I find? I didn't find it scary. I there were parts of it that weirded me out, that creeped me out, i.e. the bath scene, things like that. But I'm personally, I'm not going to lose sleep tonight. I don't think it's the kind of horror film that would that would frighten me. But nonetheless, it was good. I mean, I've got it for 48 hours on rental, so I'm definitely going to watch it again within that time. But yeah, no, it's definitely my kind of horror film. That The Faculty, The Thing mentioned earlier. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Not frightened though.
And I guess you'll ask my opinion.
Absolutely.
So I'm kind of in the same boat. I guess I'll do it one film at a time. With the 78 version, I'd say that had more scenes that kind of scared me, and the general vibe was very creepy. The level of creep was nicely moving up throughout the film. Because it started just like a normal thing. It's like, oh, these flowers are mysteriously appearing. It's like, oh, it's kind of, oh, that's a bit weird. And then it goes to, oh, the husband's acting strange. Oh, that's getting creepy. And then it gets creepier. And it's like, oh, you see the body doubles. Oh, that's really creepy now. So I'd say that. And then when you have the 3 cocoons in next to Donald Sutherland, when he wakes up and all the bodies are spazzing out, that I'd say is, an actual scary scene that's got you on edge. Because you don't know what the hell they're going to do. You don't actually know what these doubles act like when they wake up, because they clearly know that you're supposed to kill, really. So yeah, and then obviously they're being chased through San Francisco, and then you get to the point where he's with what's she called, Elizabeth, when she's in the bushes. He says he loves her, whatever. That's good. I like that scene. Then he runs off with the Scottish music with the with the boats. It's weird. These films have weird scenes like that where it kind of reminded me of the helicopter scene where it just seems so out of place. Why have you got Amazing Grace playing during this scene.
Oh, because of the meaning of Amazing Grace.
Is it?
Yeah. I mean, you might say it's a bit bad taste, but it's a song of liberation, isn't it?
I guess.
That's why it's sort of hopeful. It's
yeah. I mean, that's fine. It's because they can clearly hear that music and it's being played on the boat. But I thought it was going to be something to do with the, before in the massage scene where the woman's saying, "Oh, plants like music."
Oh, good connection.
I thought it'd have something to do with that, and then it didn't. That's what confused me a bit. But it wasn't too bad though. It didn't like take me out of it, but it was still creepy. And then he's in that greenhouse thing.
I was expecting the film. This is me leading up beforehand. I was expecting it to be more gory, if I'm honest, and I think I came away not underwhelmed, but I don't think that expectation was met, because I was sort of gearing myself up for like, oh my god, I can't possibly do it. This is just too violent, too gory, and I ended up more creeped out at the fact that there was this underage girl, macking out with a, with a guy clearly too old for her. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like I say, but that doesn't mean to say there weren't parts that were disturbing. Like I say, the bath scene was one in particular, and I know you don't like the kid Haryan, but that scene where the mum is snatched and the boy sees attained, like that for me was disturbing, and the kid did a good job there, and Forrest Whitaker's
that's
mental spiral downhill into madness was another sort of
I mean, this is what I was going to say with the second one. That ramped up the creepiness quite quickly, which was fine. The only scary scene was the bath scene, but again, I say that was more creepy than actually scary. And then it's creepy when he's in the hospital and her double wakes up and she's like, "Oh, don't do it."
Oh yeah.
That got me a bit.
But then you have that soldier coming just like going absolutely mental. Like,
oh, I love that. There, for people who aren't as familiar with the 1993 film as we are, do watch it if you haven't seen it. It's worth it. There's a scene in the hospital where a guy, the slightly creepy in current thinking love interest, Tim, the helicopter pilot, sneaks in to rescue our protagonist.
Yeah.
And he's sort of given a bit of respite when an absolutely massive guy just starts beefing out and knocking the crap out of nurses, and he's like twice. It's like they brought a cave troll.
It was literally a Deus Ex Machina moment for a diversion for a diversion.
It's quite satisfying though, isn't it? Like he's just raging out and they don't care. He's roiding on them. I love it.
James De Silva, I felt the 90s one I think was a bit more action packed. I think it was more action packed than I haven't seen the 70s one, so I couldn't say in that regard. But that it definitely had more of an action. I mean, literally ending with a helicopter blowing shit up. I mean,
this is what this is what I was going to say. It just after the I'll just call it bad dialogue. I thought in the intellectual debate bit, I didn't take it not that seriously there, but it was when the toddler, as I say, just runs up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
When they're in the helicopter, I'm like, right, this is just getting crazy now. He gets on, I'm like, right, he's going to be assimilated, isn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, he is assimilated. What a surprise. And then I'm like, I literally said at the screen, oh, you eat the baby. And they actually do. And I just, after that point, it kind of like, after that point, I just couldn't take the film seriously. And then they get in the helicopter blowing shit up, and I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Kind of ruined it there.
If they just ended it with those two just escaping, beaten, beaten, battered, traumatized, that would have done it for me, I think. Like you say, just actually no. Is this thing armed? Yes. All right, let's go blow some shit up.
I mean, to make the very obvious joke, and I feel we have to.
Yes.
They yeeted the kid from the helicopter, and you're telling me this wasn't about commies? I'm sorry, we have to do it, so to speak.
Was Pinochet alive when that film came out?
Crikey.
Do you think he
For
funded? Do you think he funded it partly?
I don't know. I think if he did, we'd see more capes.
True.
But I mean, like, as for me, I'd say the 78, the 56, they are more works of sort of paranoia, creeping dread, and they leave you quite sad. Like the protagonist like loses everything. It's not just the people that have been killed; they've been taken over and turned against him. And it's so I'd say they're haunting.
Yeah.
The 1993, it gets that energy a bit. You can't say that it's a clear victory for them at the end.
No.
But I do think Abel Ferreira is willing to go scarier, and he's got the gore. Like, I really appreciate that the sort of melting, decaying bodies of the original people was nasty, and it looked amazing for me.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That was good special effects, I think, especially for that time.
And he does a thing I'm very fond of in films where he manages to sort of build up to a moment of chaos. And it made me think a lot of, say, 28 Weeks Later, 28 Days Later, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Dead Set. All of those where you build up, and once it goes wrong, it all goes wrong. So you have that creepy moment where the snatched stepmom is basically saying, "What the heck? What are you going to do?" And they run out the house, and you get the first big point and scream moment. And from that point, it all goes to hell. Everyone's chasing them, and it's quite high energy, and everything breaks down. I love that. I felt that sort of. That had a sort of high energy to the horror in it.
It did make me laugh, that scene when they were running, and as they're running away, there's like 3 or 4 troopers come out, and they've got their guns and they start shooting, and like they're obviously out in the open and they're shooting, and they're missing obviously the main characters. Now I thought they were missing them, because in my mind I was thinking, oh look, stormtrooper, bad aim, and then you sort of hear them go, no, get round here, we're on your side. And I'm thinking, oh, hang on a minute, they're not assimilated yet. They just come out and I'm thinking, how did they miss from that? Oh, they weren't aiming for them. I see.
Yeah, as much as I like it, I'm going to have to... Abel Ferreira is not the best director, and he is a bit sort of choppy. He's memorable, but he is kind of... There are moments of incoherence, and you'll see that in Driller Killer as well. And you sort of have that in any of you get these great scenes where someone is busted, they're revealed that they've not been taken over, and the chase is on for them. And they get, one person is suddenly being chased by 20 people. And that is speaking straight to our lizard brain, and that is very effective. If you're being chased, you're bricking it.
Yeah.
But those films sort of then the scenes kind of cheat immediately after, in that visually it is set up so they would be caught in any second.
Yeah.
And then it kind of, the next angle you get is they get away, and you're not exactly sure how they managed it. And it does feel like it's, especially when they're trying to get into the helicopter at the end, I think is when I noticed it most. Like, hang on, how the heck did they both get into the helicopter? They were about to be mobbed by about 20 people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of issues when it all goes to shit, I'd say.
I noticed everyone was running behind them as well. They're not in a... no one was flanking them from the sides or heading towards them. When they first legged it, everybody was behind them, and they had houses in front of them. So why weren't those people coming out and essentially ambushing them and swarming them?
I would suggest, if we think of...
This is why I don't think during a film.
No, don't. It ruins them. Never take notes either.
God, I hate being told to turn my brain off.
Damn it, Haryan. So wait, have you seen 28 Weeks Later?
Yes.
Okay. So you just find the first like 5 minutes of that movie because it's a brilliant one of someone being chased, and it's chased by zombies, and they are sprinting, and the tension is so high, and you can really feel it that any slip, any mistake, any second they give the zombies, they're going to be caught and torn to pieces. It's absolutely amazing. The music is incredible.
Yeah.
It's a track called Was It Don Betrays Alice? And it was reused in Kick-Ass. If anyone wants a bit of trivia. But that kind of scene, that directing, if they had applied it to this movie, which it is absolutely, this movie would love that kind of directing skill.
Oh, that would have been good, yeah.
They clearly knew they were onto a thing because they had variants of that about 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
What I'm effectively saying is I think there are moments of imprecision. There are script moments that don't make a whole lot of sense, and there are directors who would tie things together a bit more cleanly.
Yeah, if you go back and watch that initial chase scene when they get out of the house, if you notice some of the people who were chasing after them aren't even running. Like I say, in comparison to that 28 Weeks Later, that opening scene when he's pegging it, you're spot on. The sense of urgency is there. That desperation, one mistake could cost it all, and that energy isn't there. In Body Snatchers in that particular scene, because like I say, some of them are just quite a few of them are just half-arsing it, and even the main characters aren't even sprinting, if you will. It's more of a sort of something in between a jog and a sprint. They're not really going all out. Yeah. But then I suppose they got little legs, they're carrying little legs, aren't they? So in the form of that little child, but even still, like,
I mean, that's a tool. The fact that they've got this little kid slowing them down is a tool that can be used to enhance vulnerability and increase the scares. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, the element, they've refined it, and I feel like you could do another version of this.
Yeah.
And you could pretty much redo this and get an incredibly scary film that would be very, very relevant to now.
Definitely. Well, hopefully the version we get, is it this year?
It is in very early stages of development.
Right.
It may not even happen. It's just got a producer and a writer assigned to it.
Well, you never know. Hopefully, if they might do it right. Or not do it right, because like I say, I don't think Body Snatchers was a bad film. I know we sort of crapped on it quite a bit tonight, but I think it is a product of its time, and it was towards that period of time when the horror genre was sort of a bit stale anyway, I think, hence why films like Scream came to be.
But I mean, that is something that stood out to me. It's really interesting that you've got the 1993 one and you got The Faculty in 1998, and there's a really different sort of tone and frame. And what's the difference? Well, I'm going to say it's Scream right in the middle of them in 1996.
Definitely.
And that's why The Faculty is so meta.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, lovely.
Nice.
Did y'all have anything else you wanted to say about the wonderful Invasion of the Body Snatchers series?
From the films I saw, it's a very good idea. I think it was executed very well in 78, and executed not so well, but still entertainingly well in 93. That is all.
Have I got you wanting to watch The Faculty? That's my main aim.
I will be watching that at some point. I don't know if it'll be this week. I'll need you to say what films I need to watch for next week. If it turns out to be Teeth, I'll probably just watch The Faculty instead. No, I'm joking. But I do want to watch it, yeah.
Oh, good lad.
Sounds good. No, you're very good at convincing me to do things, such as lift and among other things.
I could explain the lifting thing, but I think it's kind of funnier to just leave that there.
Yeah, just leave it. Yeah.
I have no idea. So leave it. Yeah, I have no idea what you're two are on about, but that's fine. I'm assuming.
Teabag, you've seen the 78, you've seen the 1993, and you've seen the Faculty.
I
Nice.
haven't seen the 78 one, admittedly.
No! Oh, I missed that. Okay.
But I'm definitely going to go off and watch that. But I echo Haryan in the fact that 1993 version could have been better executed, but I think it was more of a product of its time, and for that reason, I think it's worth a watch anyway. But yeah, definitely, yes, Julian. Homework, woohoo! But homework I'm actually willing to do because it's fun, and I look forward to next week's assignment.
You've been great. I love that you watch these. It's great. Julian, you did leave a comment a while ago, actually, like 20 minutes ago. I did mean to get to it because I thought it was a good question. You asked, are we going to see the COVID lockdowns play into this sort of horror? I was really interested in that, and I think it's a really good question. I was going to do a video about lockdown horrors and how can I say, horror films that use claustrophobia and lockdowns and would be relevant. I wasn't sure how in good taste it would be, because I don't know. I might go back to it later, but lockdowns are getting to me a bit, and I don't know if I wanted to watch or make a video about it. But absolutely, I think we'll probably see it feed in.
Possibly, yeah. Well, I mean, it's feeding into everything now.
Yeah.
With the way that TV's produced at the moment and media. So I think, especially when, things start to ease off, I think a little bit, and, the world gets a little bit more open, I think we'll probably see more of sort of the lockdown stuff come into play. I think it's more at the moment more of a support network. I think how people portray it. I mean, you see things. I think Sheridan Smith did a TV show recently while she was pregnant, and that was in the midst of lockdown, and she was like Zoom calling or live chatting with people in this documentary, and it was all based on while she was locked in her own home.
Yeah, there was a horror film which has already been produced under lockdown, which I should probably mention. It's a film called Host. It's very short. I think it's on Shudder. It's about 60 minutes, and it's very clever because it uses the fact that the actors weren't able to interact in any way, and it's got them all partaking in a séance over Zoom, which might have you cringing. It's a bit divisive. I thought it was done really well. It had some great shocks, and it was very inventive. So if you've got Shudder, or other ways of viewing things online, then I'd highly recommend looking at Host. 60 minutes is quite inventive.
Wasn't there a I don't know if it's a horror as such, but I mean, if you want to talk about ultimate lockdown, wasn't there a Ryan Reynolds film where he was
Buried?
It's just called Buried, yeah.
Yeah, 2006, I think.
Good film. I like that film.
Yeah. I mean, we could go old school and we could suggest 1990s Misery, one of the rare Oscar-winning horrors.
Yeah,
if you want some
have to. Yes,
lockdown
definitely.
horror.
Yeah. Harry, have you seen Misery?
Misery. I've not seen many horror films.
Harrian, add that to your list.
I'll wait till Miss Horrorshow gives me homework on it.
Miss Horrorshow, give Harrian homework. Misery.
I was going to make him watch Urotsuki Doji.
And that one as well. I have no idea what that is. I'll watch that too.
No. You've got kids around. Do not. Don't even Google it.
Right, now I'm Googling it.
So,
what the hell?
Okay, good. So, I'm hoping. Well, I want Harrian to be interested in watching The Faculty. I hope I've got you excited to watch this 78 because it's so interesting. Like this amazing entry, possibly the best. possibly in the series is basically known for a meme that spoils the whole ending. And I'd like anyone who's curious to try the 1956 for a black and white horror that is obviously long before our times. It is accessible. It's one of those rare, really old school horrors that I think you can still connect to. Like I would say, like Mergu, you're showing your power level. Sorry, like what would I say? I would say the is it the 31 Dracula, the Todd Browning, the 37 Todd Browning's Freaks. Very old films that I think still work and can still communicate to you. Night of the Hunter, also something that I think works for a modern audience, even though we're talking films that are only for 70 years old.
Yeah.
So the 1956 Invasion of the Body Snatchers, if you want to watch something way out of the standard wheelhouse. I've activated all the weebs in chat. I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to. I've got no idea what that stuff is. I've never watched Onegai Twins. Nothing like that. This is a wholesome stream, and I don't know anything about that stuff. So hopefully, we've gone into a little bit of what's maybe going behind the scenes in these films, some of the wider meanings, some of the interpretations you can have of them. And you can also have a decent discussion back and forth about that, because I don't think we're entirely agreed on everything.
Which, well, yeah, good. That makes for good discussion.
Absolutely.
Well, exactly. Yeah, that's what I want us to do. It's like the whole thing is I don't like people sort of writing horror off and just dismissing it as foolish. Mergut, very good shout. The original Cape Fear is absolutely one of the older. I'm not sure I'd say horror, but it's definitely a very tense film, which also stars Gregory Peck, who absolutely nails it in 1976's The Omen, directed by Richard Donner before he did Superman.
I was going to say Richard Donner. That name sounds familiar. I think I watched a Mr. Sunday Movies video today, and they talked because he did a Superman 2 director's cut.
Yes, he did.
After Christopher Reeves died, or after it was after the Superman Returns film, and they were going over that. I need to watch that. Sounds better than the original second one.
What, Superman Returns or the director's cut?
The director's cut, the Donner cut.
Yeah. That'll be interesting. I just love the idea that someone watches Superman or Superman 2 and they're like, wow, that's so amazingly directed. What else has he done? And they go to The Omen. And anyway, yeah, I hope I've got people interested in the series, and I hope I've got people interested in when you're watching the horror, just having a little think about what else is going on there, about how it's effective, about what else it's referring to, in why it's scary, and what kind of themes and messages are in the film.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Certainly with films. I mean, I've played some horror games, and there's definitely I find them a lot more. Well, obviously, because they're interactive, they're a lot more immersive. But yeah, you've definitely given me an appreciation for horror films that I'd never had before. So, congratulations! I'm very happy to be a part of this live stream now. Plus, it's expanding my knowledge.
When are you completing Soma, Haryan?
Well, I need to finish that. I need to finish Simp for Real Queen's Top Trumps. I've got Laughing at the Guardian this weekend, and I'm working late, so I can't really stream Friday. Hopefully next week. Unless I do Simp for Real Queens, it depends on everyone else's availability.
There are a lot of real queens out there, Haryan.
Exactly. And I need to lift for them. So,
Haryan, I will be a real queen for you if it helps you lift.
All right. Cool. I will take that as
you take that ball
is.
and you run with it, mate. You take that ball and run with it.
All right, yes. Folks, we're coming up on 2 hours. I think maybe we sign off around now. Closing thoughts and shilling aplenty from you both are very welcome. I'd like to really thank you for coming on the stream. So, Haryan, do you want to go first?
Well, as I said, what was it? Laughing at the Guardian on Saturday. That's a definite. Videos are whatever happens to be annoying me that particular day or week. So there's probably going to be a Star Wars one this week.
Oh,
just about how they have a new character that's literally just a rock.
How can you not love that?
How can I not love that? Because rocks are inanimate, and I know that better than a lot of people.
I thought that was just a meme.
Oh no! Search Geode Star Wars, and it's like, it's a Venetian male.
Darth Igneous.
Apparently,
God.
Fuck off! I might make that my new Steam name. So that's been annoying me recently. So I don't want to say expect a video on it, because something might come up tomorrow about Harry and Meghan that I really want to cover as well. And then, obviously I plan to finish Soma at some point, and I plan to finish the Symphoreal Queens live stream. Probably do part 2. Probably do part 2 of that next week, and then finish Soma the week after. I'll try and stick to that plan, and then videos in the meantime. And closing thoughts, yes, definitely go watch Body Snatchers 78. And if you like that one, you will like the 93 version as well. But I'd watch it in that order. I watched it in the other order, and I kind of wish I did it in the 78, 93 order, but it doesn't really matter. But yeah, definitely go watch 73. That's 78. That'll do for closing statements.
Nice. And T-Bag, go ahead, mate.
Yeah, sure. So, again, thank you for having us on Horror Show. It's been a pleasure. As always, I look forward to what it'll be next week. So, looking forward to my homework. Yeah, what Haryan said basically. So, I haven't seen 78's one, but I would go by his recommendation to watch that. Definitely watch the 93 Body Snatchers as well. I know we've given it a bit of a hard time tonight, but it is a good film at its core. In terms of shilling, I don't have anything out this week just because of my work schedule. But on Monday at 10:30 p.m. GMT, planning on live streaming CSI, Hard Evidence on the Xbox 360. I've been doing that for the last few weeks with Zen Chan, who also has a Twitch account. So yeah, we're doing the final case on that. So it'd be great to see you there. And yeah, I mean, check out my most recent episode, which came out Sunday. It's one of my personal favorites. I'm not going to lie. I'm quite happy with how that one came out. And like I said at the beginning of the stream, it's a 75-year-old plus mystery that's unsolved, and probably isn't going to get solved for some time yet. So definitely go check it out.
Yeah, I'd never heard of the missing Sodder children. There is, I mean, there are so many questions unanswered in that, but it was absolutely fascinating. And folks, as you will have heard, T-Bag's got a good voice for narrating. So
yes, I'm very envious of it.
That alone,
thanks.
That alone, Pete.
Oh, thank you. I think it made me blush.
Folks, it's been an absolute pleasure. Big thanks to Haryan and T-Bag for coming along, and especially for doing the homework. It's few streams that actually give the guests homework. So very grateful for that, and I will be signing off now.
If there was ever a reason, sorry to interrupt, if there was ever a reason to subscribe to Proper Horror Show, it's that she assigns homework to her guests. Subscribe.
Yeah. We will be carrying on the streaming. I think I've said before, I had planned to stream, but I hadn't planned on my computer exploding. So we are doing streams. But I was scared of them. I'm actually really enjoying them. So we're going to keep up the streams until my computer is fixed, and we'll probably keep going afterwards. So, okay, Julian's actually asked an interesting question. Would you like me to announce the stream topic a few days in advance so that everyone else can watch and catch up?
That sounds really good. Yeah, definitely.
All right. Okay, I will do that. I will announce the stream topic and the stream film in advance. I'll try and give you advance notice, beeps. That is all from me. That is all from the guests, and I wouldn't feel proper signing off without the usual thanks, y'all. Tschüss.
See you later, chat.